Greetings, my dear viewer. This is a channel about marital infidelity and about the consequences if one spouse starts to cheat on the other. If you, as well as I do, support true family values and condemn cheating, then subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Let's get started. It was late Friday evening, and I was sitting in my office, carefully reviewing the questionnaires of various candidates who had applied for a job in our company. As the regional manager of a chemical company specializing in weed control, fertilizers, and water retention products, I played an important role. Our existence depended on the farmers who grow our food, and we were proud to be the first company to be recognized for 100% ecological purity of products. Recently, the husbands of 2 of my employees were promoted, which led to their dismissal, as both families were preparing to move within the next 3 months. Therefore, we needed to fill their vacancies quickly. Our sales department was responsible for 8 states in the Midwest, a region that is often considered just a flyover territory. But this year, sales growth exceeded all our expectations. Linda, my assistant, looked into my office and said, "Tom, all 8 candidates have confirmed the interview time for Monday. I'm already leaving, so good night." Every Thursday, I went to one of the states of my territory to hold a half-day sales meeting on Friday, and then return home. This routine turned Thursday night into a special evening for my wife and her friends, which made the cost of a babysitter justified. My weekly visits were necessary in order to provide our sales representatives with the necessary personal contact, and over the years, these efforts have proved extremely useful. In 8 years, I have not lost a single team member, which was a significant achievement for the company. Today, after returning from a trip, I took the time to do a few things before heading home. The company had been pressuring me for years to give up this aspect of my role, but I treasured the solitude it provided. With a know-it-all wife and 3 children, this quiet time on the road was priceless. This decision also saved our branch from having to hire a sales manager, which was extremely important in a tight budget environment. At that time, our children were in junior and senior high school. My eldest daughter, whom I am very proud of, was supposed to graduate from high school in the fall and receive a full scholarship to Southeast Missouri State University. My youngest daughter had just turned 16, and she was focused on getting ready to graduate. My wife, Emma, worked as an assistant district attorney shortly before our youngest daughter was born. She was recently offered a position as a lawyer in the federal government, and she gladly accepted. The new position seemed to appreciate her tough, uncompromising approach, and the salary was twice what she was earning now. It would be unwise to turn down such an opportunity, and she was supposed to start working in 4 months. My parents have been picking up our 3 children every weekend for the past 15 years, giving my wife and me the opportunity to be together. They thought we needed this time to reunite, and I have to say, it was the most generous gift they could give us. If it weren't for these breaks, we could have suffered the same fate as many couples who end up getting divorced. Our eldest daughter, Julia, was preparing to work in our senator's office in Washington, D.C., for the summer before starting her bachelor's degree in political science. Some time ago, my father, with my consent, purchased an ancestry DNA kit for each of our children and sent their samples for testing. We understood that there would be a match only if one of their relatives also donated DNA. When the children approached me, I agreed, thinking that this could lead to an exciting new adventure for us. Julia planned to surprise their mother with the results, which, as we knew, could take from 5 to 6 months to get. We were going to Nashville this weekend to visit the Grand Ole Opry and were returning home on Sunday. My wife organized this special trip to create another unforgettable moment in our life together. Emma and I met in our last year of university at one of the football matches. I wasn't on the field. Instead, I was one of the vendors selling overpriced snacks to the audience. Emma was the coach's daughter and always had access to free tickets. One day, after a particularly violent argument with her boyfriend, I found myself unwittingly involved in their argument. Then, she pushed him, and he pushed me down the concrete stairs in retaliation. As a result, I ended up in the hospital with 25 stitches on my forehead. Emma, feeling responsible, visited me every day and even got to know my whole family before I finally recovered. I later found out that I had been in a coma for almost a week due to serious internal injuries. As my vision began to clear, I noticed an incredibly beautiful woman standing by my bed. For a brief moment, I wondered if I was dead, and if I was at the pearly gates with her as my angelic guide. Then, my friend Esmeralda appeared next to her, looking clearly unimpressed. I quickly closed my eyes, wishing that when I opened them again, Esmeralda would disappear and this strange scene would end. When I woke up again, the amazing woman was still there, but Esmeralda had disappeared, obviously having found someone else to annoy. Emma, the woman who stayed by my side, never asked for anything in return as I slowly rebuilt my life. Eventually, we started dating on the sly. After graduating from university, I joined the sales department, and she started her first job as an assistant manager. At one of the family meetings, her younger cousin asked her about her unmarried status, to which she replied that I had not proposed to her yet. Just 3 months later, I was standing at the altar when she came up to me. Emma was 5'8" in tall, with long blonde hair, striking blue eyes, and a figure capable of turning heads. We exchanged vows, but by the 5th wedding anniversary, we were already on the verge of divorce. To this day, the reasons for our struggle remain unclear to me, and perhaps to Emma as well. Returning from a trip, we decided to stop by Lambert's restaurant, famous for its flying rolls and mediocre food. Emma was looking forward to this place because it reminded her of her mother's kitchen. When we got settled in the cabin, she reached out and turned off the sound system in the car, making it clear that she wanted to have a serious conversation. I quietly turned on the dictaphone that I always kept in my jacket pocket. I had learned to take precautions in such situations. "Tom," she began, "have you ever thought about having an affair?" Her question struck me to the core, leaving me in a daze. My thoughts were spinning in uncertainty. What led to this? Was there any deep meaning behind her words? I took a deep breath to collect my thoughts. "Emma, let's be honest," I replied. "Everyone has thought about it at some point. The main question is whether I acted in accordance with these feelings, and the answer to it is no." And when she started demanding details from me, I explained, "Emma, when we got married, I took my marriage vows seriously. They meant something to me then, and they still do." Emma added with a sigh, "Everything has changed, Tom. Oaths don't matter as much as they used to. I think you should think about finding yourself a lover with whom you can really communicate. Don't worry about your conscience. I bless you. It might even bring us closer together." I was speechless at her suggestion. It seemed to me that she was giving me permission to betray, and I couldn't understand it. "Emma, why is romance so important to you?" I asked her if I had done something that made her want to ruin our marriage. She was silent for what seemed like an eternity. Eventually, she turned the sound back on, effectively shutting down the discussion, but her silence was loud and clear. Emma was usually quick to find an answer, so her silence was very significant. I began to suspect that there were deeper problems in our marriage problems that I needed to solve. We continued driving in silence for another hour, driving about 40 miles, until she turned off the sound system again. I instinctively reached for the recorder. "I'm really sorry, Tom," she said. "I've probably been absorbing too many romantic novels lately. These thoughts were probably caused by them." With these thoughts, she turned on the sound again and pretended that the conversation was over. I felt the opposite. Emma hated these books, always calling them rubbish. Emma would never read them, much less let them influence her opinion. When we were returning home, I realized that I knew very little about her Thursday gatherings with friends. I have always trusted her implicitly, never asked questions about her whereabouts. But now I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Did she visit bars and have a one-night stand? As soon as we got home, my parents were already there with our children. I poured them drinks and listened to them talk about their weekend with their grandchildren. These moments are very dear to them, and they often say that children help them feel young and alive. After about an hour, they decided to go home, and I walked them to the car, my thoughts still in the air after the previous conversation with Emma. "Tom," my father said softly, "what time can we talk to you alone in your office tomorrow?" "I have scheduled interviews for the whole day," I replied. "How about we meet in 3 hours?" "I'm here for you, no matter what happens," he said, bending down to whisper, "It's not about me and your mom. It's about Emma and our youngest daughter. I can't tell you more because Emma is listening." "Okay, Dad. I'll drop by your place after work and we'll figure it out in half an hour," I said loudly enough for Emma to catch it through the window. After seeing my parents off, I went into the house, took the car keys, and threw the toolbox into the trunk. "Hi, honey," I said. "I have to stop by Dad's place tomorrow to help him with something, so I might be coming home a little late." Emma answered from the window, "I heard you. Don't worry. We can have dinner later." The next day, my parents arrived on time and were escorted to my office. We settled down, waiting for the coffee to arrive. When he finally appeared, Linda closed the door behind her. My father broke the silence. "I owe you an apology for that ridiculous prank with the DNA tests of children. They found a match with Lisa. She has a paternal grandmother who was looking for her son and his descendants. He handed me a form from Ancestry with the name and phone number of this woman." I was shocked. My father, noticing my reaction, realized how much this news affected me. "Dad, I really don't think this is a mistake," I said. "Let's see what we can find." I picked up the office phone, dialed the number, and turned on the recording function to make sure that the conversation would be captured. After 2 calls, someone picked up the phone. "Hello, my name is Thomas Parker. I'm trying to contact Mrs. Elizabeth White about the DNA match I found at Ancestry," I said. "Is she free?" "That's her," the woman replied. "How can I help you?" "It's a little difficult," I began. "In short, my youngest daughter is your granddaughter." "Are you talking about Lisa Parker?" she asked. "That's right," I replied. She continued, "Then you may know my son, whom I had to give up for adoption at the age of 15. "Maybe, but I need to know his name," I said. "He was adopted by a family named Davis, and his middle name is Mark Andrew," explained Mrs. White. My face lost color, and tears welled up in my parents' eyes. We knew that name too well. Her outspoken statement completely turned my world upside down. "He's fine," I replied. "He's now the district attorney in Cape Girardeau County, Missouri, and he's also my wife's boss. He's never been married, and now I think I understand why." "He's my only child," she said. "I have stage 4 lung cancer, and I don't have much time left. Could your daughter visit me before I pass away? If finances do not allow, I will gladly pay for her ticket. I would really like to meet her and share my inheritance with her. Mrs. White, given the current situation, I will allow you to negotiate with my parents, since you are only 1 state away from me. They can arrange a special weekend visit to help you get to know her," I suggested. "I wouldn't let my daughter go on such a trip alone." "Do you need anything else?" I asked. "Please provide me with a notarized statement that will allow my lawyer to conduct a DNA test," Mrs. White replied. "Given the importance of Lisa's inheritance, he needs to verify her identity before I make any changes to the will." "Got it. I'll give it to my father," I replied. "He will sort out the details and find a way to contact you." I got up, left the office, and handed Linda my personal dictaphone. "Please transcribe and notarize my conversation and phone call." "I'll need them for the divorce case. Do I need to take care of the permission to conduct a DNA test?" asked Linda. Knowing that with the recorder on, she needed to be silent. This strategy has helped us avoid disputes more than once. "Yes," I replied, "but we have to keep it a secret for a few weeks. I want to know what my future ex-wife does on Thursdays." I went into my assistant's office and told John, "I need to talk to you and your wife urgently. I could use your help in solving a personal issue." John immediately understood the seriousness of my request. "She'll be free soon," he replied. I'll tell her to come right now. I went back to my office to make an appointment. Using my house key, John and his wife will pack Lisa's things and get everything ready for next Friday. I planned to pick her up from school and take her to them by 10 in the morning. As I was escorting my parents to the exit, John's wife appeared. I told her to go to his office, promising to join them soon. Thanks to modern technology, Linda has already deciphered the recordings. I gave copies to John and Anna for review, recommending that they start with a conversation between my wife and me. I also gave Linda the documents provided by my father so that she would make photocopies for my lawyer's file and make sure everything was in order. Both Anna and John have known Emma and me for a long time, and today's revelations were not easy for them. As children, Anna and Emma were neighbors. Although they weren't particularly close, they were well aware of each other's lives. When Anna discovered the hidden truth that had recently surfaced, she was stunned. "Do you think there's a chance they're still together after all these years?" asked Anna. "Or maybe it was just a fleeting meeting, which they later regretted," I replied uncertainly. "I'm going to need your help to figure this out. Over the next few weeks, John, I need you to use the company's car to meet with salespeople. Anna, I will drive your car so as not to attract attention. And you can use John's car. I'll tell the corporation that this is part of your cross-training, John, so you'll have to do it for the next 3 months. You'll be watching Emma on Thursday nights and documenting everything." John nodded in understanding. "Emma thinks that you continue to drive regularly and won't suspect anything." "I have a strong feeling that something is going on," I said. "Otherwise, why would Emma casually suggest that I have an affair, and even with her approval? After all, if Davis hadn't changed jobs, nothing would have changed. I suspect Emma may be planning to move in with Mark Andrew Davis as soon as he starts working in St. Louis. If she can prove that I'm having an affair, it will give her a reason to file for divorce." "I can well imagine Emma doing something like that," Anna agreed. "It has become too common to shift the blame onto others to distract from your own actions. If you find any evidence on one of those Thursday nights, give me a call. I'll ask the dispatcher to send a couple of officers to report that you've had an accident. This way we can get a detailed report on their condition, whether they are dressed or not, and where they got to. A few officers wouldn't mind taking a little revenge on the district attorney for his attitude towards them." Linda raised her head and said, "Paul Clark left the district attorney's office 4 months ago because he couldn't work under Davis anymore. He started his own practice. I've sent everything we have to his office and he's waiting for you. You should hurry up." "Please give Paul my regards and best wishes," Anna said. "Let him know that we are still thinking about him." I went to meet a man who was on his way to the Supreme Court with the women's right to life movement. His insight into legal matters has dramatically changed the outcome of many cases. As I got closer to Paul's office, everything began to fall into place. Emma and I started having problems in our marriage shortly after she started working for Mark Davis. Around the same time, I was promoted to sales manager, and I began to travel frequently. If their affair had been going on all these years, then I had unknowingly been a cuckold for more than 15 years. Mark's lavish Christmas and birthday gifts suddenly made sense. Paul was waiting for me when I arrived. Anna told him about our plans. Paul handed me the key to Davis's house and a note with the alarm code. He also provided a phone number. "Call this number," he instructed, "and you will get to people who offer services at an affordable price. I've already talked to them, and they're waiting for your call." "Why are the codes valid only until the end of next week?" I asked. Paul replied, "Davis receives a monthly reminder to update access codes. He had been planning to file for alimony since Lisa was born. According to state law, he cannot avoid this by declaring bankruptcy. If Paul succeeds, it will be a financial disaster for Davis." He also intended to bring a court case against Emma for adultery, abandonment of the child, and fraud for the fact that I fraudulently married Mark Davis's daughter to my own. Paul suggested that I temporarily transfer the parental rights to Lisa to my parents until the court issue is resolved. I asked why. "That way they won't be able to accuse you of using Lisa against them," Paul explained. Mark will resort to clever tactics and treat you the same as everyone else. Sometimes a strong defense is the best offense. I offered to use my debit card to pay for Paul's services, but he refused, saying, "Your wife will immediately notice and guess what you are up to. Please write me a check and I will keep it until the services are rendered." When I left Paul's office, it was obvious that he was offering me every opportunity to sort things out. Linda found the best help for me. I got the feeling that Paul had personal motives for pursuing Mark Davis so intensely. Emma and Mark were on the verge of facing unforeseen consequences. Paul Clark has just created his own version of the divorce game. I completed the necessary documents to grant the parents temporary parental rights to Lisa and explained the situation to them. They agreed that this was a reasonable decision. I was waiting for Anna to show up in her Ford Taurus. John was going on his first trading trip, and Anna would leave the car with me before taking John home. My eldest daughter told me that Emma won't be home for dinner, as she goes on a date with friends right after work. When Anna arrived, we swapped cars, and I threw my suitcase in the trunk. "Tom," Anna said, "the dispatcher and all the guys are ready. Just let me know where you need me." "Thank you," I said. Paul mentioned that if the situation escalated, I should contact him so that he would personally deal with it. They? I couldn't help but wonder why Paul was so determined to get rid of Mark Davis. "For Paul, these are principles," Anna replied. "Mark doesn't follow his words." It was intriguing to watch Emma and Mark, after enjoying a first-class steak at the bar and grill, drive away in their cars. Meanwhile, I went straight to Mark Davis's house and waited. Paul's friends and my team have already prepared everything. I found a secluded spot with a beautiful view of Mark's house. Emma appeared first. She turned off the alarm by entering the code, and then unlocked the door with her key. We recorded how she went inside. 10 minutes later, Mark appeared. Emma greeted him by unbuttoning her blouse and exposing her breasts. Mark hugged her, and they shared a deep kiss. As soon as they closed the door, I stopped recording. 6 of the 8 rooms in Mark's house were equipped with a video and audio monitoring system. We settled in the house of Mark's neighbor's son, who was currently serving a long prison sentence. Everything we recorded at Mark's house was streamed live on their Facebook pages. It became clear that Emma's team was watching me, believing that I would fall into their trap and look for a new lover that night, since she knew about my daily routine. They even went to the trouble of removing an escort girl who matched my preferences. I sent a message to Anna so that she would know what I had discovered. She contacted her husband John to warn him that someone was following him. A former Marine, John reacted quickly, turning off the road at 10 o'clock in the evening, hoping to escape from his pursuers. After that, he called a tow truck and informed his wife about the situation, which she then texted me. I calmed her down and gave her the address. Then I went to Mark's house and removed the valves from all the tires on his car to make sure they couldn't leave. The lovers were cornered. The police arrived, flashing blue headlights, and began looking for Emma Parker. Mark tried to deny her presence until the police pointed out her car parked in the driveway. Eventually, Emma appeared wrapped in a sheet. "Mrs. Emma Parker," one of the officers said, "your husband Thomas James's car was involved in an accident near Little Rock, Arkansas. Your parents offered to look for you here." I enjoyed watching Emma's face lose color. The police used deception to piss her off. As soon as the officers finished their inquiries, I followed them as they left. From the moment the police appeared until their departure, everything was broadcast live on Facebook, where irrefutable evidence of what was happening was collected. At midnight, my eldest daughter Julia called. "Dad, Mom's not home yet, and my calls are getting on the answering machine. I'm worried. She never stays up late. What should I do?" "Call Mark Davis and ask him to put you through to your mom," I instructed, giving her my number. "Why call her boss?" Julia asked. "Because he's been her boyfriend every Thursday for the last 16 years, I replied. Then I sent Julia a video clip showing Emma wrapped in a sheet, talking to the police, and Mark in pajama pants. 10 minutes later, Julia called back. "Mom's phone seemed to suddenly work. She told me she was on Lower East Broadway with 4 flat tires. I realized that she was lying and said that it couldn't be true because it was very close to Mark's house. She continued to insist, but I reminded her that I had seen a video of her and her lover. When she asked me to send the video, I sent it to her, and she had difficulty explaining why she wrapped herself in a sheet. I didn't wait for her at home for several hours, but as I got out of the car, I asked Julia for a favor. Could she open the front door? Julia noticed me taking my suitcase out of the trunk and came over. As soon as I put the suitcase on the floor, the phone rang. It was Paul Clark. I answered and put him on speakerphone. "Tom, I just served them both at his house," Paul said. "Now your wife and her lover are forbidden to approach you and the children within 500 feet. I will inform the Cape Police Department before I go home. Do not enter into any relationship with her. If she shows up, even to pick up her things, call the police. Is that clear?" I replied, and my eldest daughter heard everything too. "Thanks, Paul. Julia opened the garage so I could park Anna's car inside," I told him. "I have to go to Little Rock." When we were finishing work, Julia asked, "So that's why the locksmith came at 6 to change the locks?" "Yes," I confirmed. I explained that the choice was made suddenly. "Why did you decide to do this?" Julia asked. "The DNA test that your grandfather sent to Ancestry," I replied. "He informed me about the coincidence with Lisa during our working day on Monday. When I contacted that woman, I found out that your mother's boss is actually her father, whom she gave up for adoption at the age of 15, and Lisa is his daughter." Julia was very upset, and I held her until she calmed down. After that, we went to the kitchen to talk quietly. I played a recording of a conversation with her mother during our trip home from Nashville. Listening to her mother's words was very revealing. "Why does Mom want you to have an affair, Dad?" asked Julia. I replied that it was necessary in order to mitigate the consequences if her act became known. Ironically, her assumption led us to the truth. Our conversation was interrupted by a soft knock on the door. Since I wasn't expected at home, Julia went to answer. The policeman informed us that they had stopped the taxi that Emma was in and warned her about violating the court order. Julia and I talked about everything late into the night, and agreed that Emma could become a talented writer with her ability to write stories. "I still can't believe that Mom had an affair with the same man for over 16 years, Julia said, her voice filled with disbelief. "How did we not notice that?" "It was easy," I replied. "You children were young, and I worked as a sales manager, going to meetings every week. Trusting in our marriage, I never thought about blessing your mom for the weekly bachelorette parties." "We all trusted her," Julia replied. "That's what prevented us from seeing the truth." I was sitting in shock. If Julia hadn't pointed it out, I probably wouldn't have understood. Emma used our trust as a cover to continue her affair without any consequences. Julia noticed that tears were glistening in my eyes, and noticed, "That's what really hurts the most. It's not just about betrayal or deception. It's that she took advantage of our trust and faith in her to preserve the only relationship that mattered to her." I added, "If your mother could treat someone she professed to love like that, think about what she can do to us now that she despises us for revealing the truth." Julia got up to make us both a cup of fresh coffee. Just as dawn was breaking, a text notification came to my phone. "It's from your mom," I said. "She wants to talk to me urgently about some family issues before I get back from my trip." Julia asked with obvious concern in her voice, "How are you going to react?" "Don't worry," I reassured her. "I'll just tell her that she can keep laughing at the big dumbass behind my back with Mark. She can move to St. Louis with him, but not with our children." Julia stared at me in disbelief. "Your mother doesn't need me anymore," I explained. "My usefulness to her has come to an end. She hoped that I would have an affair, intending to use it against me during the divorce process. She never imagined that she would be caught after so long." It must have been hard for Julia to face the harsh reality of my words. Few people can bear the naked truth without falling on the defensive. Most people react to the truth by hurling insults at the person who says it, because it hurts to hear it. But eventually they come to terms with it. I stood up and hugged my daughter when she started crying again. We managed to calm down before Michael and Lisa got to their feet. As usual, I turned on the TV in the kitchen to watch the local morning news. Soon they were having breakfast and were surprised to see me at home. We were all taken aback when the image of my wife appeared on the screen. My son, intrigued, turned up the volume. I felt a wave of sympathy for my children as they listened to Mark and Emma bullying me. Emma bluntly stated that I was a complete idiot. He doesn't notice anything that's going on around him. Their mother then added a scathing comment that made them both laugh, but the reporter interrupted them, saying, "I don't think they're laughing anymore." He explained that after 5 hours of watching the antics of longtime lovers live on Facebook, their plan to hook me up with an escort girl in order to get a divorce and take everything I had failed enormously. In the next scene, Paul sued them both. Lisa rushed to me and collapsed on her knees, tears streaming down her face. It was a heartbreaking moment for a 16-year-old girl to find out that her father was not really her biological parent, but her mother's longtime partner. Michael said bluntly, "If you're just trash in Mom's eyes, then what is everyone else doing?" As soon as Lisa calmed down, Julia took it upon herself to help me explain everything that had happened since our return from Nash Hill. I called the school to arrange for an exemption from classes on Friday and Monday so that they would have time to digest the news. Just as we were sitting down to breakfast, Lisa spoke up. "Dad, the chief of police is coming to us." This caught our attention, and we turned up the volume again. It followed from the announcement that both Emma Parker and Mark Davis, our current district attorney, were facing criminal charges, and a special team was being set up to investigate the situation. I've been thinking about the fact that being in public often causes people to encounter behaviors they normally adopt in private. Hypocrisy permeates our daily lives. After breakfast and tidying up, I gathered my 3 children at the table and showed them a copy of the letter my father had received. Then I turned to Lisa and said, "My parents are coming to pick you up to meet your biological father's mother. She is seriously ill with cancer and has expressed a desire to meet with you. There is an important reason for this, but it would be better if she shared it with you herself. To me, you will always be my daughter no matter what. If you have any questions, feel free to ask your grandparents. Julia, could you help your sister pack for the weekend while I call my parents?" As soon as the girls left, my son turned to me and asked, "How are you coping with this, Dad?" "I'm constantly trying to keep my composure." I reminded him, "If you ever find yourself in a situation like me, you have to be strong for those around you." With that, I contacted my parents to explain what was going on. They assured me that they would arrive as soon as they finished packing the car, as there was still an hour before their flight. At that moment, I had no idea that my relationship with my son would soon improve significantly. The 3 of us watched as my daughter, whom I raised, left with her parents to meet her biological grandmother for the first time. I could only hope that everything would go well, and she would return with the same love she always knew. The district attorney's office had an eerie, lifeless atmosphere. After her car was towed and the tires were replaced, Emma Parker decided to go shopping in search of new clothes, and Mark Davis began studying the lawsuit filed against him. Even without direct DNA analysis, they had established a biological link, which made it impossible for him to refute his relationship. Now the staff has learned the truth about their relationship and long-standing romance. This revelation, combined with the undisclosed details of Lisa Parker's biography, turned into a political disaster. Due to the fact that fraud can legally extend to non-disclosure of important information, Paul decided to file a civil lawsuit against Emma and Mark. It was obvious that they had been deceiving him for many years. All the lawyers Paul approached were confident that Tom Parker and Paul Clark would come out victorious. Most of the lawyers were well aware of Paul's courtroom abilities, and none of them wanted to take on his case. By the time he laid out his case, most of the defenders had already been undermined. The exposure of their actions on Facebook and their open attempts to tarnish the reputation of an honest man for their own benefit made headlines, mainly due to Mark's authority in society. Emma had just left her favorite boutique, known for its unique clothes, when she unexpectedly ran into a woman who directly questioned her sanity for not realizing the inevitable consequences of the situation. When Emma asked what the woman meant, she said that Emma had been a disgraced star on Facebook for at least 5 hours. Emma returned to Mark's house around 1 p.m. and found that the service company had just finished its work. They mistakenly called her the owner of the house and recommended that all security codes be reset. It wasn't until they left that she realized she hadn't confirmed their visit with an electronic signature. Worried that Mark might accept a new position in St. Louis, Emma called him. When he asked why she was worried, she explained her concerns. They both began to suspect that she was just taking care of herself, given that they knew that Mark's new job was a political assignment related to the deep state. Emma made herself a cup of coffee, sat down in an armchair, and began to look through the divorce petition. Her first shock came when she realized that her own words had aroused suspicion. I was puzzled by her request to intentionally harm another person for her own pleasure. My parents shared the news of a DNA match that revealed Lisa's true parentage and confirmed Emma's infidelity. It dawned on Emma that I should have known about her actions long before Lisa showed up. At the same moment, she realized that I was responsible for the revelations of the previous night, which brought to light her hidden truths. Just as she was taking another sip of coffee, the doorbell rang. She got up and headed for the front door, where she bumped into Mr. Carter, a neighbor whom Mark had a strong dislike for. "How can I help you?" she asked. He handed her an envelope with legal documents and said, "Last night your husband used my apartment as a base for his actions against you and your lover. I was happy to help because Mark Davis made sure that my son received the maximum punishment as a first-time offender." He continued, "The contents of this envelope will also be sent to all your family members later today. Tom wants to know if you're laughing at him right now." Emma watched him walk away with a smug expression on her face. Returning to the kitchen, she opened the envelope and found a collection of photographs. In the pictures, she captured how she meets Mark in the house, greets him at the door, and engages in intimate moments in the living room. Even the police were depicted in the photos. My team didn't leave a single stone unturned. The last page, signed by me, warned that if the details became public, there would be serious consequences. Emma's attempts to force me to comply failed. "Emma," I wrote last Sunday after our return from Nashville, "I realized that you were trying to arrange our divorce. Since then, I've been thinking about why your love turned into resentment. Now I understand. You blamed me for what you thought was missing in your life. You felt isolated and longed for the freedom of your bachelor days. That's why you were looking for him, hoping to regain your lost sense of independence. By taking this step, you have freed yourself from a marriage that brought you suffering for several hours a week. The only reason you stayed with a man you couldn't stand was because Mark refused to take responsibility for raising children, even his own. Given your attitude towards me, you would never entrust children to a person you consider unworthy. Your pride just won't let you. Therefore, you have built your life on a deliberate lie," I said. "Every day you and Mark managed to get away with it, and my contempt for you only increased. I've become nothing more than a fool to you. How many times have you bullied me, you vile woman? Did you encourage Mark to be with you by humiliating me? What I really can't forgive is how your actions have affected our children. They will carry the burden of this for the rest of their lives. I can't understand how you and Mark found entertainment in treating our lives like a game. The news reporter understood this perfectly well when he asked if you were still laughing at me. I watched you and your lover demonstrate your plans on social media, and it hurt me to see how Julia, Michael, and Lisa found themselves in the middle of things. It hurt me to see you joking about how easily you can ruin me. Michael, our only son, said, 'If Mom only sees you as trash, then what are we?' I have not discussed their further interaction with you yet. To be honest, I can say that now they seem to me non-existent. Your and Mark's utter contempt for me is what brought us here. At least we both know that you find amusement in leaving me with a reputation as a stupid buffoon. Maybe you and Mark can celebrate your success tonight. Emma's hands were shaking so much that the paper slipped out of her hands. Her expression was filled with bitterness, anger, and resentment. To an outsider, she seemed like a mother, indifferent to her children, her husband, and everyone else, focused only on herself and her desires. Then her sobs broke the silence. I had a unique ability to undermine people's reputations without directly judging them. Anyone who read my words could not dispute my comments about their actions. In my opinion, everything she did was motivated by greed, not love. I should have realized that Mark was pressuring her to leave before Lisa was born. Mark's new job has changed their previous strategy. Initially, they planned to wait for Lisa to graduate from high school in order to reveal her true origins without any consequences. I was right about one thing. Emma wasn't amused anymore. She picked up the divorce petition and continued to read, and it was heartbreaking. One of the lawsuits filed against them alleged fraud related to the concealment of Lisa's true origin. They were also accused of emotional and mental abandonment of a child, adultery, and defamation. The amount demanded as compensation for damages made her uneasy. If I win the case, Mark and Emma will be left destitute for a long time. I and his lawyer argued that they could no longer consider me a fool. Saturday passed for me and my two older children in a whirlwind of events from dawn to late evening. Relatives came, including Emma's parents, her siblings, and their spouses, all bringing food to provide support. Even my brother and sister came from another city. We were just overwhelmed by the love and support that surrounded us. It was hard for everyone to understand how Emma had managed to deceive them for so long. They unanimously agreed that what they shared on social media clearly indicates her malicious intent. My father-in-law and I went out on the terrace for a few minutes with a cold beer in our hands. "Thomas, leave it alone," he said. "Lila is inside, so you can have some privacy. We will keep them at a distance until you come to your senses." He stayed by my side until everything calmed down. "Layla and I are going to update our will," he mentioned. "What should have belonged to Emma will now be divided between your 3 children. Although she is our daughter, I cannot forgive her for what she has become." We had just finished cleaning the house when my father called. "Lisa has met someone," he said. "You definitely see a family resemblance." Their meeting went well. Mrs. White became interested in the dynamics of our family's development and encouraged Lisa to share her thoughts, which was very important because she did not understand a lot. The lawyer received the necessary blood sample and then asked me to come in for a personal interview. My father kept talking. He asked about Mark Davis, and I shared what we knew. I found out that Mark's biological father is serving a life sentence for murdering his lover's husband. If it hadn't been for Lisa's presence in his mother's life, Mark would have inherited from her. "Don't worry, Dad," I assured him. "Paul Clark has obtained a court order prohibiting Mark from coming within 500 feet of us." It was a hectic day, with numerous family members on both sides expressing their support. We stayed at Mrs. White's estate as her guests. Dad explained that Mom felt privileged when she was treated so exquisitely. "Lisa is currently living with Mrs. White, and we both care about her." Her lawyer mentioned that he hadn't seen the old lady smile in a long time. "Wait a minute. I'll get your mom." "Tom, I had the opportunity to talk to Elizabeth alone. She was wondering what kind of son you were, and I tried to be honest about you. We have discussed in detail everything that has happened over the past week. She expressed her appreciation for the respect you have shown her and thanked us for helping her resolve issues related to her property." My mom continued. "In the future, she intends to transfer everything to a trust fund in Lisa's name so that you can control the situation until she turns 25. Text me when you leave, so I'll be there when you bring her home," I said before ending the conversation. I sent a message to Lisa, saying that we all miss her, and quickly contacted Dad. We finally managed to arrange everything before John and Anna arrived in my car. I apologized to Anna for not bringing her back sooner. "The police chief sees an opportunity to destroy Mark Davis," Anna said. "He and Paul are working together, and Paul has handed over several questionable items to investigators." When I returned, the staff looked gloomy and worried. John said, "I told them in general terms that some of us had been aware of what was happening almost all week and helped in any way we could. It's been a pretty emotional journey since Thursday night. It's still not easy for the children, so I decided to take a day off on Monday." "Have you heard any news about Emma?" Anna asked. "Not since Thursday night," I replied. "Most likely Mark and Emma are immersed in their own lives and don't show us how they really feel." Early on Sunday morning, my youngest daughter called and asked if she and her grandparents could come home late on Monday evening. I replied that everything was fine, as long as her grandparents were with us. She expressed her gratitude that I had advised her to go. I asked why this was the case. I asked Lisa about this, and she said that Mrs. White helped her understand that my mom's infidelity was not her fault. She helped my dad understand that we were all innocent victims of the situation and did not deserve the pain that Mom and Mark's actions caused us. "I love you, Daddy," she said before hanging up. On Monday evening, Julia, Michael, and I watched my parents drive up to the house. They looked tense and exhausted. As soon as Lisa got out of the car, she rushed into my arms, and I felt great when my youngest daughter returned home. Her father opened the trunk and took out her suitcase, which Michael quickly carried to her room. Meanwhile, the three of them went to the family room to take a break, and my parents and I went to the kitchen to make fresh coffee. The parents shared their thoughts about Mrs. Elizabeth White. When we left, my father said how calm she was. It meant a lot to her that Lisa accepted her. Then, Mom took an envelope filled with legal documents out of her purse and handed it to me. "Her lawyer gave it to me at Elizabeth's request," she explained. Opening the envelope, I found a check for $50,000 and a short letter. The esteemed lady expressed gratitude for my cooperation and mentioned that by the time I contacted her, she had already exceeded her lifespan. DNA confirmed our biological connection. She praised Lisa, saying that she was a wonderful girl and that I had raised her well. "Use the resources that I have provided to get through this difficult period, and do not forget about your values." I told my parents about it to get their opinion. It was hard for them to accept that we could fulfill a dying woman's wish for a simple cup of coffee. I recounted everything that happened while they were away. I assured them that emotionally, the whole family has been through all this, and tomorrow we will return to normal life. The rest of the week passed without any problems. Emma tried to contact each of our children by phone, but she was told not to call anymore. At the company's headquarters, they were pleased with my refusal to hold sales meetings, and for the first time in 10 years, began searching for a new sales manager. When I was sitting in my office and looking at the monthly sales data, Linda looked into me and said, "Everything went wrong." I looked up and asked, "What's going on?" "I received a letter notifying me that your recent correspondence with Emma appeared on the website of one of the newspapers in Southeast Missouri." I looked at the website and found the Speak Out section. While I was reading, Linda came over to my desk and looked over my shoulder. By the time she finished, there were tears in her eyes. I told her that I wrote it in a moment of emotional turmoil. Maybe I was being too harsh, I thought. "No," Linda replied. "You just bluntly stated what her current behavior indicates. Any of them could be honest about this matter. Mark enjoyed the benefits of a long-term relationship without facing the consequences." "That's exactly what I was thinking," I replied. It is not often that society so openly observes the true impact of the actions of individuals on the family. For those of us who have gone through a divorce, it serves as a stark reminder of the pain and struggle we faced before we could begin to rebuild our lives. Emma and Mark had dinner at the bar and grill. The restaurant, which was usually noisy on a Friday night, was almost empty. After inquiring about the absence of visitors, they asked the waitress, and she replied that many people were staying away because of my recent publication of a letter on the internet. Emma and Mark quickly demanded the check and decided to leave, deciding it was better to avoid the public for a while. As they were leaving the restaurant, Emma noticed her parents sitting at the next table. She came up to them, and Mark followed. Her father raised his head and said, "Mr. Davis, I suggest you leave so that my wife and I can enjoy our meal in peace." Emma left the restaurant in tears, finally realizing the consequences of her and Mark's decision. When they arrived at Mark's, they went online to look at the comments themselves. Both of them clearly understood that the public treated them with contempt. 3 months later, I found myself in the passenger seat of my car, watching Lisa at the wheel. We were on our way to Wichita, Kansas, having just learned of the passing of her grandmother Elizabeth. Our destination was the airport, where we were to board a private jet ordered by the estate. Lisa struggled with her grief, because she had developed a close bond with Elizabeth through their frequent phone conversations. When she returned from her trip, Julia and Michael gave her incredible support, and the four of us became even closer. They urged me to start dating again, but I kept my thoughts to myself, feeling burned once and embarrassed twice. Meanwhile, Mark and Emma moved to St. Louis, where federal authorities allowed Mark to start work earlier than expected. The county was relieved to see him leave, as he had paid more than $45,000 in questionable expenses. They now lived in a 2-bedroom rental apartment and were preparing for bankruptcy due to an impending civil lawsuit. According to the bankruptcy laws of the state of Missouri, each of us could keep only $10,000. Our divorce was arranged in accordance with state rules that required Emma to pay child support while the children were in school and cover half of their living expenses if they lived on campus. The civil fraud trial was scheduled to take place in 2 weeks. My children continued to refuse to communicate with their mother, and her relatives did the same. Emma has learned from her own experience that there is a limit to what people can endure before finally breaking off contact with her. Lisa had a difficult meeting with her biological father, organized by the state child welfare agency, and it did not go too well. She challenged him, saying that, according to his mother, he is addicted to the use of illegal drugs, like her real father, and should stay away from any woman. In the presence of Social Security staff, Lisa made it clear that she considered both her mother and him dead. After attending my grandmother's funeral, we learned from a lawyer about the significant inheritance that Lisa will receive. It was very difficult. As a trustee, I discussed this with Lisa, and we agreed to sell her grandmother's house, leaving only some personal jewelry and a few photos. When the school year came to an end, I was preparing for the first day of the trial on Wednesday. Lisa came into the room and said, "Dad, can you schedule a meeting with Mark, Mom, and their lawyers on Tuesday, as well as with Paul?" I asked her why. She explained, "I want them to understand the true consequences of their actions. Grandma Elizabeth thinks it's a good idea." I called Paul to make an appointment, and on that beautiful sunny day, we got together with Mark, Emma, and their lawyers. Lisa was the first to speak. "I asked for this meeting," she began, "to share with you important information about your biological father. He is currently in prison and serving a life sentence for the murder of his lover's husband." Lisa then handed him a sealed envelope with his name on it. I couldn't help but notice the stunned expressions on Mark and Emma's faces. "You should also know," she added, "that my biological grandmother left me a trust of over $100 million for my father, Thomas Parker, which I will receive when I turn 25. He would have been yours, Mark, if she hadn't found out about me," Lisa said. "When she found out how I was conceived and what it means, her views on morality and norms completely changed. That's when she decided to disinherit you. In my grandmother's eyes, what you both did was terrible. Paul, my trust will cover my father's legal fees. Mark and Mom, maybe you should try to settle everything before we go to court, because if it comes to that, we'll go to the Supreme Court. Mom, you have to understand that the fact that I was born into a sin that you consider a sin does not give you the right to justify it. Fortunately, my biological grandmother helped me understand that it is my father's morals, principles, and values that determine who I am. I left this meeting feeling both proud and humbled. My daughter expressed it perfectly. It doesn't matter what happens tomorrow. It doesn't matter, because today I'm grateful for what really matters. And that's the end of the story. Thank you for your valuable time. Give me your generous likes. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. May the force be with you.